Remember when they were trying really hard to trick conservatives into supporting Sydney Sweeney? I'm talking, of course, about the drama regarding her whole American Eagle ad.
My jeans are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has great jeans.
And how they tried to twist it into some kind of culture war thing to say that Sydney Sweeney was a secret conservative and secretly based or something like that. Well, she hasn't exactly been promoting what I would call conservative ideas as of late, though, has she? Especially when you look at the stuff she's been doing on Euphoria. I can't really think of anything more depraved and disgusting that you could do and get away with on mainstream TV than what Sydney Sweeney has been doing. Honestly, at this point, I'm just sick of seeing her, and I know we're not supposed to judge and all, but I'm going to be doing some judging. I guess to start this off, I'll go into some of these tweets coping, saying that Sydney Sweeney is actually being forced through some sort of humiliation ritual because of her jeans ad, because the jeans ad was too base and good for Western civilization. I don't know. It's such a reach that is completely ridiculous. But basically, the deep state or whatever is mad at her jeans ad, so they're going to force her through some kind of humiliation ritual, and that's what this actually is. She's actually a victim. Now, there is kind of a sort of ritual going on here, a sort of mind ritual, if you will. But in regards to Sydney Sweeney's role in it, she's not some helpless victim. She's just a sick freak who thinks it's okay to dress up as a toddler and sexualize it for a few bucks. Now, what is this mind ritual that I'm referring to? A long time ago, I did a video response to Ben Shapiro. In this video, Ben Shapiro was emphasizing the way that mainstream TV is used to promote certain types of lifestyles and political. Basically, the television was being used to promote ideas that go counter to the traditional values of the time.
Imagine a group of activists so powerful that they could beam their propaganda directly into your brain. Now also imagine that they're so sophisticated, they actually get you to pay them to do it. A year before the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court case, the top-rated TV sitcom Maude featured a storyline in which the title character of the show has an abortion. The LA Times described it as a watershed moment in TV history. Why? Well, because it removed the stigma of abortion.
Now, Ben Shapiro is right about that, but the reason why I had to do a video response to it is because he is ignoring the fact that the majority of the people, almost all of the examples he used, both the writers of the shows and also the CEOs of the broadcasting networks, were all Jewish. Now, why would he ignore that? And is it really relevant? Well, I'm going to get into that.
You see, everybody says the harm what the Germans have done to the Jews. When you ask what have the Germans done to the Jews, you must always ask what have done the Jews to the Germans. Since 1850, they have done three things which are really dramatic. Then the third point, which was psychologically the most dangerous of all, they have introduced into German art and culture and theater and movie decadence, immorality. The first homosexual theaters, plays, were made in Berlin in the 1920s. The first adultery theater plays were made in the 1880s and 1890s, 100 years ago, by Jewish authors. Adultery, then sexual perversions of all sorts, sadism, masochism, a lot of homosexuality, all these things. And they wrote books ridiculing Christianity, ridiculing Jesus. I mean, it was something like Salman Rushdie. With the Muslims.
Now, I don't have anything personal against Jews, and I'm not trying to stir up animosity against anybody in particular. And no, that's not just me trying to be YouTube friendly, that is actually how I feel. But it's not just a coincidence that these people are Jewish, and there is a lot of historical context to back this up. One example in history that I'm going to point to, because I'm actually pretty decently versed in it, is going back to the cultural Marxist movements of the early 1900s. These groups and individuals and intellectuals used sex, sexual themes, and sexology to promote counter ideas that were counter to the Christian ideals of the time. There's a very good documentary that I've mentioned several times before on this channel by William Lind called The History of Political Correctness, where It gives a very 101 good lesson on the names and figures that were behind promoting this type of stuff during this period.
Marxist theory had predicted that if war came to Europe, the working class in every European country would rise in revolt. In 1917, a Marxist revolution did occur in Russia, but it failed to spread to Western Europe, again contradicting orthodox Marxist theory. Gramsci and Lukács argued that Western culture had blinded the working class to its true Marxist class interests. Before a Marxist revolution could take place, Western culture had to be destroyed. In 1919, Lukács, who was considered the most brilliant Marxist theorist since Marx himself, asked, "Who will save us from Western civilization?" That same year, 1919, Lukács became Deputy Commissar for Culture in the Bolshevik Bela Kun government in Hungary, where he launched a program of cultural terrorism. As part of that program, Lukács introduced a radical sex education program into the Hungarian schools. Another new member was Erich Fromm. Fromm, a practicing psychoanalyst, was noted for his radical Marxist social psychology. He pioneered the concept of sexual liberation and gender politics.
Now back to Sydney Sweeney and the show Euphoria. This is a show that's especially notorious for its very vulgar sexual themes. So isn't it weird that they would theme the show around high school? Would it have made it any less of a show if they, themed it around at least college kids or something like that? Made it about a college sorority or something?
Are we gonna win? Then let's hear it for the East Highland Black
And then that begs the question, who exactly are they trying to promote to and appeal to? Well, the show is about high school kids, so it's not a stretch to assume that they're trying to appeal to a crowd of people that are in high school, which can be as young as 13 years old. So early, mid-teens, and late teens children, basically, is who this show is trying to market to. That kind of reminds me of an old quote by Bob Pittman, who was one of the main founders of MTV, who said, "We don't just shoot for the 14-year-olds, we own them." Bob Pittman is also Jewish himself, and I don't need to give an introduction on the impact and influence that MTV has had on our youth, especially in the 90s and early 2000s. Sam Levinson, who is the creator and writer of the show Euphoria, is also Jewish. Now, is it just a coincidence that Sam Levinson is Jewish too? Well, check out this article by the Israeli newspaper Haaretz. The source I will emphasize is the Israeli newspaper called Haaretz, and it reads, "Dirty Jews and the Christian Right." It continues, "Brilliant actors like Larry David and Sarah Silverman are challenging America's powerful religious family-friendly culture and asserting their Jewishness by glorifying obscenity." Now, I always thought the wording in this article was strange. What do they mean by asserting their Jewishness? Are they implying that it is inherently Jewish to promote ideas to undermine Christianity? Are they implying that it is inherently Jewish to promote smut to undermine traditional Christian values in Western countries? And what about just average everyday Jewish people who don't even think about this sort of stuff? Doesn't that kind of put a target on their back? Jewish people have also played a disproportionately high role in pushing the pornography industry as well. An interesting article I would like to cite on this is one by a guy named Nathan Abrams, who is a Jewish college professor and is also considered a leading authority on this subject. This is a 2004 article by Nathan Abrams from the Jewish Quarterly. I am reading it as a PDF on finalcall.com. I will skip down to the section labeled Sexual Revolutionaries. Extending the subversive thesis, Jewish involvement in the X-rated industry can be seen as a proverbial two fingers to the entire WASP establishment in America. Some porn stars viewed themselves as frontline fighters in the spiritual battle between Christian America and secular humanism. According to Ford, Jewish X-rated actors often brag about their joy in being anarchic sexual gadflies to the puritanical beast. Jewish involvement in porn, by this argument, is the result of an atavistic hatred of Christian authority. Therefore, they are trying to weaken the dominant culture in America by moral subversion. I now skip ahead to the section Nathan Abrams on Jews in the American porn industry. Just as Jews have been disproportionately represented in radical movements over the years, so they are also disproportionately represented in the porn industry. Jews in America have been sexual revolutionaries. A large amount of the material on sexual liberation was written by Jews, those at the forefront of the movement which forced America to adopt a more liberal view of sex were Jewish. That's all I will read from this article, but if you want to read it in its entirety, that is Jews in the American Porn Industry from the Jewish Quarterly by Nathan Abrams. I read this on the website finalcall.com. But you see, this Euphoria situation really burns a special kind of righteous fury inside of me. I mean, just look at this whole thing. Is this really what we're promoting now? Is this what we're trying to normalize? Is this actually going to be the next step? Especially in a very mainstream TV show that is surely being watched by young underage teenagers. She's literally dressing up like a toddler and sexualizing it. Do I even have to tell you why that's completely depraved and disgusting? And one thing that I really feel like the American people, for the vast majority, can really get behind, regardless of whether you're left-leaning or right-leaning, is that when it comes to the kid stuff, you don't go there. And I'm not even going to get into what kind of treatment I think someone like Sydney Sweeney or Sam Levinson deserved for promoting something like that. Okay, listen, I get it. Some people are gay, some people are trans, some people like this or that. But can we all come together and just agree that this is where we're going to draw the line? I mean, whether we agree with this lifestyle or that, whether you're into this and that, and whether you're into it, we can talk about whether or not we disagree on that on a different time. But can we agree on this, that when it comes to the kitty fetishizing stuff, that's where we stop and say, hey, none of that? Is it really too much to say, hey, let's draw the line at the kid fetish stuff? Especially when it's on a mainstream TV show that is being watched by underage kids? Surely that's not too extreme, is it? Here's an interesting tweet from an actual OnlyFans model. As insane as this is, what's even crazier to me is if Sam Levinson actually did any research on OF, he'd know this content violates the TOS and what had never been allowed on the platform. OF is very strict about the content and words it allows. Anything referencing H-play is automatically flagged and banned. He really wrote this in the script for no reason. It's so gross. Now, with all the stuff being said about Jewish people, there is something that I'd like to point out, is that I'm not trying to promote any kind of animosity against any specific groups in any way. And I'm not even trying to imply that even more than a minority of Jewish people are into promoting this type of stuff. And I get it. Say that you're Jewish, and of course you hate anti-Semitism. And every time you see a video talking about anything related to any kind of Jewish conspiracy stuff, the comments are all filled with people that are playing the Edgelord Olympics. And obviously that's going to be a turnoff to you. All the comments are all just mentally 14-year-old weirdos who are trying to signal how politically edgy they are. And I can see how that's going to be distasteful. And I really don't support any of that. As a matter of fact, if I see another person commenting, repeating the same stupid lines like, promised 3,000 years ago, Austrian Painter was right, huh guys? I'm probably going to flip out, because you guys look like idiots. You're not edgy, you're not red-pilled, you're just dumb. And that's coming from a guy who's been digging into this stuff for over a decade now, and then have had channels deleted and everything. Look guys, I said the edgy thing. Am I cool, huh? Guys, look, I said the thing. I doubt that any of these guys actually even follow or study any actual revisionists anyway. And if anything, the edgy 4chan, stupid 4chan talk just discredits all the hard work that the old revisionists actually did back in the day. Like, for example, people like David Cole and Ernst Sundell, people who you would never see talk like that and were always professional. I remember watching David Cole's famous documentary, and it's one of the most renowned Holocaust revisionist documentaries, and it's because it's done by a young guy who's actually Jewish himself.
I went to Auschwitz in September of 1992 to see for myself this place that I have studied for so long. I paid extra for a personal English language tour guide, a young lady named Alicia who gives tours in Polish, German, and English. And I wore my yarmulke, just so nobody missed the point that I'm Jewish. I came to Auschwitz as a confirmed skeptic about the gas chamber story. I noticed some people critically examining the Holocaust is the ultimate sacrilege. But you'll have to realize that I have no sacred cows, and understanding what really happened is important to me, and I'd ask that you respect that.
And this guy's very open about his Jewishness and what, digging into this stuff means to him. And then you go down to the comments, and I see a guy saying something like, it wasn't real, but I wish it was. It's like, idiot, like, why would you say that? I mean, you got a Jewish guy here who's putting his neck on the line and his credibility on the line to dig this stuff out and put this information out there. And you're going to go into the comment section and comment stupid stuff like that. But with all that, being said about how idiotic 4chan culture has just rotted everybody's brains, I do also think it's important for Jewish people to understand that there is, when it comes to a lot of Jewish conspiracy stuff, there is truth to it. You can argue that the overreaching influence of the Israeli lobby is a Jewish conspiracy, or that the Epstein stuff is a Jewish conspiracy, especially considering that he was calling people goyim in the emails. But that doesn't mean to just indiscriminately promote hate against Jewish people in general. And at a point in time, it seemed like I didn't even need to say that. But then edgy 4chan culture just took over everybody's brain and turned everybody into drooling idiots. It's to the point that you can't even have a serious conversation about this stuff because nobody's capable of talking about any of this stuff without signaling and talking completely in edgy 4chan speak. I mean, what's happened to people's brains? But that being said, I do think it is beneficial for Jewish people to understand that there is some truth to this stuff. Not that you owe anybody anything or that you have any guilt in it, of course you don't. Everybody is an individual. But knowledge and understanding is always power. And it's good to understand, these people that are extra over the top racist and ridiculous acting, why do people follow them? It's because there are nuggets of truth in the stuff that they're saying. And there is also a reason why the people that talk about this stuff, while the only ones that are popular are the ones that are nut jobs who also can't talk about stuff without acting like psychos. And that's also not organic either. And it's good to understand it as well so that we can weed out all the goofballs and weirdos and actually have an adult conversation for once. So we can get back to talking about serious political and social issues like adults. But that's all I had to say. Thanks for watching.
Oslo.